Hey there, my name is Ed Kaine. I'm the publisher of Functional Therapy magazine, and I'm here to tell you about what we're doing here. And essentially, you have this opportunity now to get on board and become a contributor to this thing. It's time to lead or be left behind. And this is what I'm talking about. The fashion right now is function. Function has become very fashionable. OTs, speech, PTs, chiropractors, everybody's talking about function, and what they're talking about is basically they're writing these functional goals, which mean you pretty much write the same thing, but they write with something in mind that is coming down the pipe. And so right now, a lot of people want to become functional therapists. This is awesome. We want people to become more functional. It turns out that occupational therapy has been working on this exact thing for about 100 years now, possibly 200 if you consider Philip Pinel. This was a guy that started with the moral movement and the French Revolution and really got people to participate in the things that they enjoyed, the things, particularly the occupations, the jobs. Remember, I meant jobs at that time. For instance, a cobbler, a shoemaker, tailor, these people who were having severe mental illness and were given this opportunity to go back and try to do their jobs again. Well, miraculously, they became, they had less problems with their mental illness. Bipolar disease, depression, all these things were melting away, and this is at a time when they were literally chaining people to the wall, right? You imagine the lunatic asylums of the old movies, right? I mean, just imagine this kind of idea. And at a time like that, there was a very few people, who were saying, no, this has got to be better. And those people became occupational therapists, truly. And today, it's really opening up. Say in the last decade, almost everybody wants to recognize this role. The traditional physical therapy, which is intense and excellent work that is dedicated to fixing physical abnormalities, fixing physical problems with tissues, is now also coming around to something in Australia that's being started, something called cognitive functional therapy, which is essentially occupational therapy. It is essentially thinking about why you're in pain, why you're, what issues you might be having around this pain. What is it that you are doing now that is different than you should be doing? What's the normal body movement pattern, and can you get back to it? So essentially, if you were able to find that normal walking pattern, normal arm movement, normal everything, if you ever notice that, when I had shoulder pain this last year, I was hiking my shoulder. When I was trying to lift my shoulder up, I naturally hiked it. I had been telling my patients for years, don't hike it. It's not helping you at all. The body mechanics are clear that you want your arm to be moving in a normal pattern. We can talk more about scapular tilting and the particular movement of the shoulder, but the point is, when we're injured, when we're sore, we're restricting ourselves from the normal movement. And what I want you to do is to take away from this idea that if you keep that in mind, that end point, that function, that thing that you're trying to do, you're going to get better faster. And that's the kind of the functional therapy approach. The functional therapy approach is actually a very holistic model where we think about the three things that you're doing, right? There's only three. There's self-care, there's work, and there's leisure. And if you think about it, kind of anything you're doing, you could fit them into that. We'll talk more about that later. And that's called the craft model. You can definitely look that up on our website. But what I want you also to think about is really the four things, the pillars that hold this up. You've got, sure, physical. The physical pillar is very much important for most of the physical activities you're going to be doing. But so is the mental pillar, because it actually turns out that people don't tend to fall because they don't have the ability or don't have the balance, don't have the strength. They tend to fall because they make a bad decision. You're getting up in the middle of the night, you need to go to the bathroom, but whoa, you sat up and you're completely dizzy. If you were thinking about what you really need right now is to be safe, you wouldn't get up. You would hold it. You would get some help. So it's that. It's also the social pillar. Imagine you're in that same situation and you don't have anyone to call on. You don't have any support. It's a different situation than if you have someone right there that's able to help. And the motivational pillar is the fourth pillar that is actually holding up that platform of self-care, work, and leisure. Imagine that if you are motivated to stay safe or motivated to get up and go to a job, you are in a different situation than someone who has a severe depression, for instance. But actually, how do we fix these things? This is one of the questions of functional therapy. How do you fix motivation, for instance, is something we spend a little bit of time on just to explain it. But imagine that if you were trying to fix motivation, you would actually be better off if you balanced out that platform on top. So, for instance, say I'm someone who's depressed. In the morning, I got to get out of bed and get into the shower. Now, it may need somebody outside of me saying, okay, it's time to go and get in the shower. Get in the shower. That can be home health care. That can be a family member. Not to nag, right? But basically, it can be those people that are involved with you. But basically, by restoring that balance on the top, right? We want to turn that thing into a self-care task. But when we take that over, and maybe we need to do some leisure too. So once you get your shower, tomorrow I'll show up and say, let's go for a walk around the block. That'll be great. And that's a bit of leisure. So now we got a little bit more balance. The person still hasn't taken on any work. So the next day we show up and we've got a bag and a stick with a nail on the end of it. And here we go. We are about to go and pick up garbage on our way around the block here. So if you are at that point, you're doing a bit of work. You've reestablished this balance in the function platform. Those things that we do, they're balanced again. You're helping your physical self, obviously. You're helping your mental self by problem solving and getting through these things. You're helping your social self because you have somebody there walking with you potentially. And you're getting motivated. Think about that. It's making a bit of sense, right? Really, and it all happens within the context of these four main areas of context. The time, place, person, and situation, right? So time is time of day, time of year, time of life. You make different decisions at different times. Physical is, of course, is there a ramp? Is the place accessible? Can I get around? Person is those people who are social with us, social supports, essentially. And situation is maybe something like culture. The expectations that are tied to living where you live and the things that you are wanting and expecting to do. For instance, we do different things here in the eastern United States than in Western Europe. They have a rather nice idea, which I might like to participate in once in a while, which is a siesta. There's actually a period of time during the day that you can't essentially go into a shop in some communities in Western Europe. So imagine that in Connecticut. I mean, you're thinking about 7-day-a-week access to everything. That's part about culture. That's our situation, and that's what we're doing here. There are people who are doing night shifts in factories, and you think about just that simple idea that it's really the culture, it's really the time, place, person, and situation. All those things are, helping shape what you're doing. And this is the craft model in short. And I hope you're going to download and print off a copy so that you have one on your fridge. But essentially, this is the framework that we're going to be talking about in Functional Therapy magazine, and it's also its professional edition, which is separate. You know that Functional Therapy magazine is particularly for the public. We are tailoring these articles. It's going to be a pleasure to read, sit down and focus on this, and then we're going to have that professional edition so that your therapist, your doctor, your care provider in any way is going to be able to learn the techniques, try to enhance their own practice, and get you the real excellent care that you need from your functional therapist. I'm so excited to be bringing this to you, and I really hope you're going to stick with us here. Welcome to Functional Therapy magazine.